If you like men, this movie is not for you. You are gonna come out of here like, I'm not talking to a man again. It is the definition of, oh, what is happening? He is crazy. In 2024, the Korean Film Archive published a list of the 100 greatest Korean films, with 20 coming from Academy Award-winning director Bong Joon Ho, who directed Parasite, Memories of a Murder, and most recently Mickey 17. So I did what any sane person would do, is watch all 20 films I recommend, but also put my degree in Korean language and culture to work. So let's sit and watch these films and talk about some of the elements you may be missing if you're not up to date on Korean politics or history, or don't speak Korean, or if you're not Korean like me. So the film starts with our girl, Jay, picking up Mr. R from the airport. And the entire first 20 minutes, you have no idea, are they a couple? Are they in a relationship? The tension is there. It is extremely awkward, as R is desperately begging to spend the night with Jay, who is just not into it. They're not married. Are they in a relationship? She doesn't even really seem to like this guy, and he is absolutely desperate for her. And so there's this weird back and forth of, hey, what's happening? Are you going home? Where are you going? Are they together? When you essentially find out that R is a married man and Jay is a woman engaged with a fiance, and it gets a lot more complicated. So I think what's most important to understand before we even get into the movie is that Korea's influx in 1991. There's this massive shift as the country undergoes this sort of, hey, we've been under military coups and assassinations and authoritative rule, and now we're starting to really find ourselves as a democracy, but also we're shifting away from society being based in agriculture into actual manufacturing done within Korea, getting admitted to UN and exporting to other countries their new goods. It's Korea stepping into modernity, essentially, and still having these conservative, still today, having these really conservative values as a country that was essentially split in half during the Cold War and still dealing with these repercussions, just not then, but also till today. And so you see the two characters sort of deal with not just the changing society, but like within their relationship as they are both returning back to Korea from France. R's family is, of course, all huddled around, telling them their updates in life. One's working at an electronics store, one has been working at a factory since she was a kid, and is now getting married, but his wife walks in and sees him. And y'all, the look that she gives him, like, this woman is not excited to see him at all. The kids barely know him. Like, who is this man? And he is ready to torture all of them even more. Next 2 hours slowly unravel. It's all around conversations between R and Jay. R is ready to resume his affair, completely forgetting about his family, while Jay is engaged to be married with someone the same social standing. And what's really interesting here is that if you remember earlier about me saying Korea's in this really weird spot of becoming more modern, you can see that within R's family, where he is this big PhD guy returning from France, and essentially he lives in a fairly old Korean home with his parents and his wife and his children all sleeping in one room.
I was shocked, honey. I was in tears almost. And it has a white refrigerator. I was like, oh, not a white refrigerator.
And so you have this man who just had this massive affair in France coming back to essentially this one-room apartment with his entire family. And he thinks he has power. And it's him wielding his power over the two women in his life. The film over and over exposes his hypocrisy. Yes, the man who literally just stepped off an airplane, having a years-long affair in France and returning to his family, now wants a divorce from his wife because she had lovers before him. And at the same time, demanding his lover from France, who's now back in Seoul, to also dump her fiance and get with him. And the entire film is this weird back and forth of, who are you, guy? What are you explaining? Like, why are you trying to tell me what I actually want? You have no social standing, you have no money. Literally, the only thing is your PhD. And so the entire film is in absolute distress. Jay is happy to meet up with him. Big mistake, girl. Run. Until he slowly starts demanding more and more, into essentially coercion into sleeping with him. And we get this extended and awkward standoff between him and his wife, who is absolutely not getting a divorce, because why should she? Remember that we're in this conservative society. A divorced woman? For what? Why would she absolutely give in to him? Divorcing is for his lover, Jay, who comes from a good family, who has a good job. She is someone who can get divorced. But his wife? Absolutely not. And so instead, it's this awkward standoff between the two women and him talking them out of what they want into giving him what he wants, which is to be divorced, but with this woman who is engaged. And you realistically want her to leave behind her family? No.
야, 생각해봤느냐?
뭐를 예?
몰라서 묻니?
와 갑자기 이혼하자고 해 얘?
갑자기라고? 전혀 갑작스런 일이 아니야. 난 오래전부터 줄기차게 너한테 이혼하자고 했다. 근데 넌 지금처럼 이렇게 미련을 부리면서 버텨온 거지? 그래. 넌 생각해본다고 했는데 생각해봤으면 그걸 나한테 얘기해야 할 일 아니냐? 그렇지 않느냐?
아직 더 생각을 좀 해봐야겠어 얘.
얼마를 더 생각해봐야 되겠니? 난 너하고 이혼하자고 한 지 8년이다.
누구는 시집 가기 전에 그런 일 있어도 괜찮고 누구는 안 괜찮아 얘?
그건 무슨 말이냐?
아 안 그래 얘? 그래. 누구는 시집 가기 전에 남자가 있었어도 괜찮고 누구는 안 괜찮아 얘?
What makes this scene so powerful is how R is using speech and his words as weapons against his wife and, of course, Jay, and how much he thinks that he can break down his wife into giving him this divorce, as he is this unemployed, intellectual, in the countryside with his entire family. What would a divorce do for you? What would a divorce do for his wife? Korea is entering a new period of economic liberation and moving fast and quickly, and your literature PhD isn't really valuable. You're not in this noble class. And what's so powerful here is that divorce is more for women like Jay that he wants, who have careers and degrees and come from wealthy families who can find another partner easily. But for R and his wife to even think of a divorce when they need to be sticking together, and you hear his family, his parents coughing at the end, who's going to take care of them? It's just this complete refusal of R to embrace reality that, sir, while you think you have control and power, you are left behind by society. You have no real place. How dare you try to assert dominance and control over these women? And how dare they actually listen to you? And so this is constant over and over. His arguments with his wife, and then also his continued coercion with Jay into submission and his sexual desires. But ultimately, he gets absolutely nothing at the end. If you've ever wanted to know what the inside of seedy motel rooms and restaurants in Korea looked like during the 1990s, well, they did play Shaka Khan at one point. What they looked like, this is a movie for you. Because the rest of this movie and basically the end of it is conversations back and forth in the same cycle between R and J, where R is, yes, obsessed and, of course, sexually interested in Jay, but also he just really wants her life. He wants her career, he wants her money, he wants her family, her social standing, and is using claims of plagiarism to come after her. That he's so upset that she took his criticism and turned it into a career, that instead of speaking up for himself, it's okay if she just has a relationship with him. He'll get over it. And it's completely unfair. And here, Jay is still in this confront, non-confront mode where maybe she is interested or is just used to him, but she is absolutely not giving up her fiance, her career, her money, her life for this bum, essentially. And we are in this masterfully done back and forth circle of will they or won't they? They will absolutely not, because this relationship as it is today and in Korean society in 1991 will not be surviving. The film ends exactly how you would expect. There is no real ending. There is no, and they were happy together. Their toxic relationship cycle continues, with R still pressuring both his wife for a divorce, but also for Jay to assume this relationship with him. That he's so upset over his plagiarism, and that he's just so enthralled with her and desperately wants her life, that she should work for him sexually. And that will be their ultimate solution, this long-term goal. That is the plan. And it seems like Jay, who is just at this point broken down, but also fearful and scared and had a future in mind before this guy hopped off the plane, is also extremely used to him. They have history together. It's just their cycle continuing. And we're not left with a clear answer on what happens next, but I do believe the director Tong Song was using this couple's relationship to show what happens next for Korea in 1991. This deep history of a lot going on, a lot of negativity, such as being used in a proxy war between the US and the USSR, but also under dictatorships that I mentioned earlier, what happens to Korea of the future? What happens to people who can't or will adapt? Like R, who is stuck in his past in France and is imagining a very unviable and unrealistic future with J, where she is essentially his slave and has forgotten her own family and her own wealth, and he has forgotten his own wife and kids and parents that he has to take care of. What happens? What happens to Korea? Well, we kind of know what happens to Korea, but with this couple, I can only hope that somehow after Jay's wedding and her fiance steps in, that R gets a reality check that this isn't happening. This is not a thing. You cannot keep stalking this woman. And to actually be a man, step into reality, get rid of his fantasy of France continuing in Korea, and ultimately take care of his family. But if anything, this character has shown us that he will do anything but. So I believe the ending leaves us sort of fearful, but there is no clear cut. Just like there isn't a really clear cut ending to a lot of relationships. But most importantly, do not end up like J and R. That history, it is not worth it. It is not worth whatever happened in France. It cannot be that great to go through this.